Next up is Senator Padilla, such a leader on voting rights on this committee with his past work as Secretary of State for the state of California. Thank you, Senator Padilla, for being on today.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Before I get to a couple questions that I want to prioritize, I want to take the opportunity to comment on something that Senator Cruz just raised. I mean, I appreciate the fact that he recognized last January 6th, I believe he called it a riot and referenced rioters. I believe it was an insurrection personally. We can discuss and debate what the proper terminology is, but even if it was just a riot, we saw the result of that incident. We saw violent attempts to disrupt Congress, to disrupt the process of certifying the election results, and in it's part of the greater peaceful transfer of power. We saw violence. It was deadly violence. We saw attacks and assaults far beyond insults and disrespect towards Capitol police officers. So if we're in agreement on a bipartisan basis to recognize January 6th for what it was, then we should also agree on a bipartisan basis to ask some questions. Was it organic and spontaneous, or was it organized and premeditated? If it was organized and premeditated, you're going to have a hard time convincing me otherwise. Then we have to ask the question, who was behind it? Who organized? Who incited this? We had the opportunity to set up an independent bipartisan commission to answer those very questions, but unfortunately, our Republican colleagues would not vote to do so. And so now I and so many people across the country eagerly await the result of the committee that was established in the House, a bipartisan committee which seeks to answer some of these questions. But let me now transition back to the topic at hand, the issues at hand, and some of the questions that I was hoping to raise. First, in the context of disinformation, Chief, I thank you for your service at this time of this agency and for your more than 40 years of work in law enforcement. The topic of disinformation has been raised by some of my colleagues already in this committee. I will not repeat them, but I do want to highlight one specific question. The role of disinformation in the lead up to January 6th is one thing, but what has been done since last year's insurrection is another. And I'm referring to the former president of the United States and his political allies seeking to whitewash, in fact, what happened. Some quoted publicly claiming that those who attacked the Capitol were just, quote, peaceful protesters, end quote. Perhaps nobody knows just how false those claims are than the women and men of the U.S. Capitol Police who were beaten and bloodied, defending the people inside this building, and yes, defending democracy itself. So, Chief, what do you say to those who continue to perpetuate the lie that last January 6th just wasn't that, just wasn't that bad? What do you say to them?
So we are not concerned about political ideology. We're concerned about behavior. We're concerned about people that break the law. And people break the law. There are extremists on both sides of the spectrum that are breaking the law. And we're here to protect the Capitol, protect the members of Congress. That's our mission. And I would say to anybody that wants to come to this Capitol and peacefully demonstrate, we will protect your right to do so. But anybody that comes here and decides they want to break the law, that we're going to do everything in our power to stop you and to ensure that that the Capitol and the members of Congress remain safe.
Chief, I didn't think I need a follow-up question to that, but apparently I do. Do you think what we saw in the Capitol last January 6th was just another day, just people exercising their constitutional rights, or was it unacceptable, fatal violence?
As I watched the events of January 6th, I was at the time retired. I was at the time watching it on TV, and I was horrified by what I saw. I saw police officers being assaulted, and that's the reason that I'm sitting here today, is because I wanted to do what I could to help this police department and to better protect our nation and the Capitol and what this Capitol represents.
Thank you for that. Clearly, we have some
Okay.
ongoing work to do. One other quick question, Madam Chair. I know my time is up. I want to recognize that Senator Capito raised the concern and the questions about the mental health of the women and men of the U.S. Capitol Police. I share in that and stand by ready to support any additional resources or support that we can offer. I do have one question about physical health. We know that businesses, organizations, entities, both public and private across the country, have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, whether it's individuals who are not willing to work because they have not been vaccinated, or people who are not able to work because they've contracted COVID-19. Chief, can you talk about vaccination levels within the department and what steps we're doing to encourage vaccination rates for those who aren't vaccinated yet?
So we are, I think we're over 70% of our employees are vaccinated. But like every agency that we just had a call of law enforcement agencies around the region yesterday, we're being hit hard by folks, both vaccinated and not vaccinated, with this latest variant that are testing positive. And we've got dozens of officers that are out on isolation. We've got dozens of officers that have been out long term with the impacts of COVID. So it has affected our staffing levels. And again, with everything else all the other staffing challenges that we have, COVID is wreaking havoc as well.
Well, thank you for your responses, Chief, and thank you for your service. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Senator Padilla. Senator Blunt, you have a few more questions. Thank you.
I do have, Chair. Thank you for the time to ask a few more questions.